American father in the home. And I have, it's like 11 pages of information and facts about a godless or a fatherless society. Fathers who are spending 30, 40, 50 years in prison as opposed to being in the home. And the stats is just, it's a long list. And we probably wouldn't have time to address all of them. But America is in turmoil. The home is in dire straits. And I think a lot of you know that. So, this morning, I want to encourage you men, first of all. I want to encourage our godly fathers this morning. Just to simply be reminded from this parable just how powerful your influence is in the home. And just how powerful your influence should be in your home. Are you the king of your castle? Or are you some guy just taking up space? Are you the spiritual leader in your home? Those are things to think about. So this morning, as a foundation for this message, we are using this parable here in Luke chapter 15. Again, as I said last Sunday when we looked at Romans chapter 8, and I equally believe that this parable is as up to date, is as relevant as anything Jesus ever said. Particularly in lieu of the American father. And their absence from the home. Now, we've read the text. We're all very familiar. A lot of people, even people who don't even go to church, people who aren't even Christians, know about this great parable. And so what we understand, this narrative is simply about a rebellious son who demands his estate, demands his inheritance, and he leaves home and he goes far away. He goes into a distant country. And then so he lives it up, as the text says. He lives it up, and he wasted his inheritance. And evidently he attracted a lot of people. There was just a lot of party time for this young man. And then all of a sudden the bottom falls out, the economy collapses, and he's broke. And experiences depression. Severe, perhaps deep depression. That's what the text suggests. And then he finds himself in these desperate circumstances. And nobody seems to care if he lived or died. Did you catch that from the text? Nobody cared. Nobody gave him anything. Here he is dying and starving, and nobody cares. See, that echoes thousands and thousands of times and experiences what people are going through right now here in 2011 and have been for quite a few years. That's what this story, this narrative helps us to understand. And so, this is a Jewish boy, and now here he is in these dire circumstances, in these desperate circumstances, and for a Jewish boy to be doing a job that never would have happened if he were at home. This young Jewish boy is now living and eating the pods of the swine, pigs. And hopefully you understand all that. We don't have time to unpack that. This is how bad it was for this young man. And so, one day, like the verse says, he came to his what? Verse 17. He came to his right mind. See, he had been temporarily out of his mind, but he came into his right mind. He came to his senses, realizes his horrible mistakes, realized his stupidity, and he decides to go home. And it's interesting when he does that and the dialogue between him and his dad. Did you catch that? He says, "Father, I am not worthy to be called your son. Guess what he's wanting to do? He's wanting to be a servant instead of a son, the rightful heir. And so he returns to his father, and there's this great love, this outpouring of compassion and rejoicing and celebration. And then the father welcomes his son back. Again, not as a servant, but as a son. That is powerful in and of itself. And so a lot of times, like I've said, we focus on this prodigal because that's, and by the way, this parable is also teaching us a lot about repentance. That's exactly what this young man did. And that's for another day, another Sunday. And then we focus on the older brother and his anger problems, his anger issues, and his attitude. But this morning, I want you to focus with me on the father. Now, obviously, we're talking about the father of a grown young man old enough to make his own choices, to make his own decisions. So, what I want to share with you real quick this morning is 4 things. I'm going to make 4 observations from this text that I see the father doing here in relationship to his son. The first one, consider with me this. The father knew when to turn loose. The father knew when to let go. He understood that. And so when the rebellious son just turned loose of his own life and takes his inheritance and leaves, there is no indication anywhere that the father was angry, mad, embittered toward the son. That is not there. In fact, he gave the boy his inheritance, his estate, and he left. The father knew when to turn loose. And just the fact, when you look at verse 20, it to me is evidence enough to know that this father cared deeply for his son. You know, it takes a great deal of wisdom. I believe it takes a lot of wisdom to know when to let go. To, as we say it in modern vernacular, cut the what? Apron string, right? That's how we talk about that, right? It takes a lot of wisdom to know when it's time to let go. You've done your part. It's time for them to spread their wings. I appreciate it about this father. You know, there is this great temptation in modern families to just hold on to that child and don't let them go. Don't cut the apron string. For what I've seen in my experiences through the years, is there's a lot of temptation on the part of mom and dad to be in control. You got it, exactly. We want to be in control because we think that's the answer. See, that's the solution. If I'm in control. See, because they haven't experienced what I've experienced, they don't understand what I understand. So therefore, I have to have control. That's not true. That's not true. And I hope to unravel that for you. You know, in this day and age, a lot of parents, and particularly moms, and bless their heart because of that parental, just that nurturing that moms love to give, there seems to be this control, but it can be constructive or it can be destructive. You with me? You know, constructive control, it's good to love your children, to be concerned about them and want to help them with their needs. But listen, sometimes this control absolutely